Welcome to the Chef's Kitchen Healthy Fine Dining series. I'm your host, Nicole Gaffney, and we're here today with St. Luke's University Health Network, bringing together doctors and chefs to create healthy new menu options to be featured at their restaurants. Joining me in the kitchen today is Dr. Frank Tamarkin, along with Chef Mike Pichetto of Third and Ferry.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome both of you guys. What are we making today?
It's Pan-Seared Halibut. We're going to do some celery potato puree,
Nice.
braised red cabbage, and we're going to finish that off with a Dijon cream sauce.
Sounds amazing. So why don't we get started?
Yep.
Okay.
We're going to start with the celery and the potatoes, actually.
What is celeriac,
Jack,
first
would you
of
like
all?
to peel them up?
You got it. I'll work on that for you, Chef. Thank you.
Celeriac is, it's in the family, it's in the celery family. It's not actually celery. It's a different...
Because it's also known as celery root, but you're
Yes.
saying it's not the actual root of the celery plant.
No, it's not the same celery you buy in the
Interesting.
grocery store.
Right.
It's grown for this. So it's the root. It has a similar flavor to celery. It's a little, not quite as bitter, a little sweet. It peels, the smaller ones are more tender. The bigger ones get a little woody, more like a turnip.
That tends to be the case in the food world in general. Would you say that? That
A lot of
the bigger
times.
the more tough it tends to be.
And then you're gonna peel this like you would peel a pineapple.
Like a pineapple.
Yeah,
Okay, that's
you
a
wouldn't
great way
use
to think about it.
You wouldn't use a peeler for this. You'd
Right, it's a
definitely
little
use
bit too
knife.
tough.
Yep.
I get that. Same thing with a pineapple.
And you can roast this. This is a phenomenal fall vegetable. I mean, I love root vegetables. This is probably my favorite.
I'm a big fan of it as well. It smells so good. It really smells like
Absolutely.
celery. Yeah.
And you can roast this, you can pan fry this, you can mash this. That's probably the most common way, which we're doing now.
That's what we're going to do today. Okay, great.
You can mash it on its own. That's fine. I like to pair it with potatoes. It just softens it up a little bit. If you wanted to do it home style, which we're doing today, you use a mixer. If you wanted to make it a little more creamy, you could use a food processor or a blender.
So you really get it nice and smooth. You're doing a great job with these potatoes, I have to say.
Thanks a lot. I
You've got some
appreciate it here. I haven't
experience.
lost a finger yet, so we're hanging in there.
Well, I think you know your way around using a knife.
A little bit. Thanks so much for having me today.
Of course,
I really
it's a pleasure to
appreciate
have
it.
you here. So what type of medicine do you practice with St. Luke's?
So I am the chief of St. Luke's Urology Department.
Fantastic.
So St. Luke's Urology is the largest urology group in the Lehigh Valley. We have
Wow.
over 20 providers providing care on a regular basis at multiple sites throughout the Lehigh Valley. We specialize in everything from kidney stones to treating urologic cancers to men's health.
Wow, that's great.
So we're gonna go with about 1-to-1 ratio on this. Just
Meaning
about.
what? The potatoes
The
to
potato to the celery
Got
root,
it.
yeah. It doesn't matter. It's just, there's no science behind it.
Okay.
We're going to start that in cold water. I don't like to put salt in my water when I'm doing potatoes. I like to do it afterwards.
Any reason for that? Just
It's easier to season the final product if you season it at the end, I find.
got it.
So that's going to start going, and we're going to start with the cabbage. So this
Beautiful
is...
purple cabbage here, by the way.
Yes. We're going to braise this. It's red wine, red vinegar. We're going to start it in some butter.
Now this recipe or this dish is going to be featured on the menu at Third and Ferry as
Yes.
part of the St. Luke's University Health Network Healthy Fine Dining series.
Absolutely. We have a menu change coming up in a couple of weeks, for the end of fall, winter.
Nice.
And this will be on there.
Here's our last potato, Chef.
You. This will
Nicole,
be on
you
there with the
mentioned
St.
that
Luke's yolk-
that's
yolk.
going to be featured on their menu. I think that's
Exactly.
an outstanding thing to do, to take a healthy lifestyle, a healthy way of life, things that we try to teach our patients and preach to our patients, and then have it out in the community and partner with a restaurant that's local. I think that's
Exactly. So people can
wonderful
watch
thing
what
to
they've
do.
seen here today and try and cook it at home, or they can just go to Third and Ferry and have the chef make it
Absolutely.
for them. Now, as a urologist, do you advise your patients a lot on different foods to eat or avoid to,
So-
treat certain conditions?
I think that in general, we obviously are preaching a healthy lifestyle.
Of course.
You want to have diets that are low in saturated fat. The American Heart Association actually recommends that Americans should have 2 servings of fatty fish per week. So I know we're making some halibut today. That's a
Yes.
great fish. It's high in selenium, which is an antioxidant. It's good for men's health. There's even some data that suggests that there may be some benefits in terms of overall prostate health by consuming selenium. So
Wow.
great dish today that I'm looking forward to try with Chef.
Who knew that much about selenium? That's great.
I know none of that. I know it's a wonderful fish to work with. It holds up the flavors very well. It's a fish that you definitely don't want to overcook.
Yep.
It's very easy to dry halibut out.
That is true.
Yeah.
Halibut, is that considered a fatty fish?
Yes. Yes, it is. Again, I'm going to defer to you on the
Well, I think
science
in general,
behind it, the health benefits.
I think in general, fish is great because it has the omega-3 fatty acids, which are
Exactly.
the healthier fatty acids that you should be consuming on a regular basis. So.
Right.
We'll return with more from the Chef's Kitchen. We now return to the Chef's Kitchen.
So we're going to saute this just to get it nice, just to get it tenderized up, and then we're going to add our liquids and our sugar,
Okay.
and then that's just going to sit and braise nice and slow.
Cabbage is such an underrated vegetable.
I agree.
Do you like cabbage?
I love cabbage. I'm
Yeah.
lucky at home that I have a great chef who helps, around my
mentioned
house
earlier
and
you've-
cooks for me and has taught me everything that I know. And
Yeah.
cabbage is definitely on the menu, and
Fantastic.
love that food.
Our house also, I do a lot of cooking at home when I'm home. I'm not home that
I was
often.
gonna say, how often is that?
Yeah, but when I am home, I do cook a lot, and we do use cabbage. It's not just for coleslaw.
Exactly, right.
You can wrap with it, you can stew it, you can do so many different things. In the fall, I do braised cabbage all the time.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's inexpensive, it's
Yep.
easy to work with, and it's so nutrient dense.
Oh, absolutely. And this is nice. It's sweet. It's sour.
If you're trying to eat the rainbow,
trying
purple
to eat the
cabbage is a
rainbow,
great way to
easily.
get that purple in there.
So we're going to add some brown sugar to this, and we're going to mix that in, get that starting to caramelize.
And that wasn't very much sugar. It looked
No,
like what,
2
about
tablespoons.
2 tablespoons?
2 tablespoons, and again, this is not baking; it's cooking. You can change this up to, if you're watching your sugar, omit it. It's not that big of a deal. If you are watching, you can put stevia in or something
Right,
without any
sure.
sugar in it. Sure.
Everything's negotiable, unlike baking, which you mentioned.
Unlike baking,
Yeah, if you leave the sugar out of a cake, you're
Yes.
gonna have a couple problems.
that's why you'll see more bakers, who dabble in cooking than cooks who dabble in
Yeah,
baking.
I would agree with that for sure.
We get used to not measuring things.
Does your wife bake also? I know she's an excellent cook.
My wife is an excellent cook. She is a baker. We've actually had some issues in the family with people recently being diagnosed with celiac disease.
Ah,
so
so-
that changes the whole landscape of baking in the house.
That
But,
is for sure.
But
Absolutely.
honestly, I feel that with that change in our diet and our lifestyle, that we're actually eating healthier around the house.
I believe
I'm going
that.
to be honest with you.
I believe it too. So I imagine you've gone fairly gluten-free as a result yourself.
Well, in the house when dinner time comes around.
Then
but
you go out to lunch and have pizza.
then I go out for lunch and have pizza and a beer.
Nobody,
No beer
In-
at lunch.
in
nobody
secret,
faults
in
you for
secret,
that. Yeah.
No, we see it at the restaurant a lot too. I mean, more and more you're seeing gluten intolerance or celiac or just specific diets people are on.
Yeah.
So to
Well, what'd
this
you
we
put in
just
there, yeah?
added. It was a 1/4 cup of red wine. Any
Okay.
red wine is fine.
Nice.
And then about 1/3 of a cup of red wine vinegar, and 1/3 of a cup of apple cider.
Great flavors you have going on here. It's perfect for fall. and
Perfect
I love
for
the
fall.
sort of sweet and sour thing you have going on.
Absolutely. Yeah, and this will marry very well with halibut, as we're doing today, salmon, scallops. It goes great with pork, and you can do this with anything.
Yeah, I could see this being really nice with a good pork chop.
And we're just gonna let that cook down,
Okay.
okay? And we're gonna get started on our fish.
So, Chef, this dish is going to be featured on the menu as part of your new menu with
It
the
will
St.
be.
Luke's Heart Healthy
Yes.
indication on it. That's great.
So, for the fish, we're gonna do this entirely on the stove. We have our halibut. Halibut season is running now on the East Coast. A lot of Canadian halibut. You see the West Coast is more the Alaskan stuff.
Is there a big difference in flavor and texture between
Not really.
East and West Coast?
No, it's just when you can get it and what you can get. We're doing this.
Sure.
It was a beautiful fish. We're doing this with the skin on. Always like to use that when we can.
Definitely.
Certain fish it doesn't work. Certain
You
fish
don't
it
see
does.
halibut skin on very frequently, I find, at restaurants anyway. Here
no.
and there. Well, at Third and Ferry, I mean, you guys really specialize in fish, so
True, we
you're
do.
pulling out all the stops.
So we're gonna do this in butter.
Now, Frank, tell me what it's like being a part of the St. Luke's University Health Network.
Well, I'm very fortunate to be a physician in the St. Luke's University Health Network. There is great support available for patients, great support available for the physician. So I'm really lucky to be a provider in the St. Luke's network and also a patient in the network. My wife and I, our children, we see providers in the network. And you know, as Chef and I were talking about, there are many parallels between having a quality restaurant and running a quality healthcare organization. You want to provide a quality product, you want to have great service, and you want to have good access. I mean, if I want a good meal, I want to be able to get into Chef's restaurant.
That's for sure, yeah.
Hopefully after tonight I
know
can get
somebody.
it.
You're good. I'll take care of you.
But the same holds true in medicine. You know, you have to have a good product, you have to have good service, and you have to be able to get the patients in when they need to be seen. So I think we do a great job of that, and you know, I'm really honored to work for St. Luke's.
That's great.
We'll return with more from the Chef's Kitchen. We now return to the Chef's Kitchen.
So we're gonna let that get hot. Our celery root and our potatoes are coming to the boil. They'll be done. It should take about 20 minutes or so.
Do you want to pop a cover on there or anything?
Yeah, do we have one?
Yeah, I've got a...
Chef, question for you. You're going to cook that fish in some butter. When do you choose to use butter versus, say, a healthy olive oil?
Great question.
It would be, a lot of it has to do with temperature. So if we're cooking this on straight high heat, then I would go with a high heat oil or a clarified butter. Clarified butter has a much higher smoke point than regular butter. The milk fats will brown and burn. A lot of it has to do with flavor. You know, if you want that caramelized flavor in there, which I'm looking for because it'll pair up with all this very, very well, then you're going to go with whole butter. Whole butter you see more for steaks and meats, and clarified butter you see more for fish and seafood. So it's a little bit more delicate.
Clarified butter's, I guess, technically considered a little bit healthier too, because you're removing the milk solids from it. I guess it depends who you ask, Doc.
I'm not an expert
No
on
comment.
clarified butter. So
I know how to make it.
nor how to make it.
Or a ghee, as it's known
There you go.
in the health food world.
I know there's some of it in my pantry at home, but I know it doesn't have to be refrigerated either.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so I'm going to move this fish to this bigger burner just to get that a little more sear on it. And I'm going to drop in, excuse me, I have some Brussels sprouts that I blanched off earlier.
So you just kind of par cooked those?
Yes.
Nice.
Salted water, par cooked them till they were just tender, and then in salted water. Brings out the green, and then just drop them into some ice
And
water.
they do look
to
very
hold.
green.
So we're just going to let that cook the rest of the way on the skin side. Get that skin nice and crispy.
Well, we're only doing 3 Brussels,
I'm
one
only
and a
doing-
half, I'll say.
Yeah, for one plate. For one plate, just 1.5 Brussels sprouts.
All right.
I would serve, you know, I like to keep things in odd numbers for
Oh, I
plating
like that,
purposes.
okay.
Yeah. So we're just going to, plate one up today. So typically the recipe serves 4, so we do 12.
All right, well, I wasn't that
12
hungry
halves.
anyway, it's fine. Go ahead.
Chef, if I'm at home and I'm cooking fish, what's a good way to figure out whether or not the fish is cooked enough?
Great question.
Well, the best way, I tell everybody, the best way to do it is to have an instant read thermometer.
Okay.
You can pick them up in any culinary store. I think they even have them in the supermarkets now. You insert that thermometer into the thickest part of whatever you're cooking. Fish is done at 118 degrees.
Nice.
You don't need to.
Good to know.
118 degrees would be a nice medium rare. You'll let it it'll sit before you plate it. Get right up to where it needs to be at 120. Perfect. You're done. And meats as well. Every temperature has a different every doneness has a different temperature.
Great.
Now you had said that your wife was celiac, right?
My wife and daughter both have celiac,
Okay.
actually. So
So this sauce, I would normally make this sauce in the pan, but I don't want to have that brown color. I want to keep it. I want to keep it light. So I'm going to omit the flour on this. Typically, I would put. I would have about a tablespoon or teaspoon or so of flour to kind of bind this together.
Got it.
But because we're thinking celiac, I'm going to omit the flour completely. So let's get rid of that. And what we'll do is because it's a mustard sauce, it's a Dijon. Mustard has natural emulsifying properties to it. So we'll just let the mustard and the natural reduction take care of it.
great.
What did you just put in the pan there?
Okay, so I started that off with a little bit of butter and shallot, and then a touch of white wine, a touch of that mustard.
It's a beautiful mustard you have, too. Is that like a whole grain Dijon? Now, if you wanted to get a little bit thicker, could you use like an arrowroot or cornstarch
Sure.
or something
You
that
absolutely
is
could.
gluten-free to thicken it?
Yep. I mean, for if I was doing this with the flour would come in to play now. I would drop it in with the fat. If I was using a cornstarch or an arrowroot, that would come in at the end.
Like a slurry?
Yep. I would mix that up with. A cold liquid.
Yeah.
You know, I could use a cold stock or I could use just cold water, and then thicken that up afterwards.
So you get the same effect, you're just using a slightly different technique to get there.
Great.
So the mustard and the shallots are soft. They're starting to reduce. We're going to add a little bit of chicken stock, about 2 tablespoons,
Great.
and a little bit of heavy cream. Just a little bit.
Just a little bit, right?
In moderation. Everything in
Exactly.
moderation.
We'll return with more from the Chef's Kitchen. We now return to the Chef's Kitchen.
Our fish is just about done. Good here. And then we're going to take care of this guy. So we're going to strain this out and mash it up.
Just strain the potatoes.
Great. You want to give me a job, Chef?
I think we're good for now.
Okay.
You have to do surgery later. Just relax for now.
It's hard for me to do that.
I bet, yeah.
So, one tip for making mashed potatoes or celery root or whatever. We're not going to do it today just for time's sake. But typically, so when you're making mashed potatoes, everything you put into that pot is what you want to taste. You know, you want to taste the potatoes, you want to taste the cream, you want to taste the salt. The one thing you don't want to taste is the water that you boil the potatoes in.
That's for sure.
So, one trick to that is when you drain your potatoes out, you want to let them sit. So you see all that steam coming off the potatoes? That's the water being released from the potatoes. So you let that sit for a little while. You know, obviously you don't want it to get cold, but you can let it sit for a little while and
Let some of that steam
yep,
evaporate.
yeah, get it out of there so you can get more of the good
Yeah.
stuff in. All right, so we are going to mash this up right now.
A little salt and pepper.
Yep. I got a little bit of cream, a little bit of butter, white pepper. I salted at the end again.
I noticed you put white pepper on the halibut as well. Do you use that?
I did, just because
preference?
it's just a color thing, really. You know, we just want to keep this nice, clean look.
Yep.
So we're just going to let this. We're going to let this whip, and we're pretty much ready to plate.
Now, can you over whip that? Because I've made mashed potatoes in the past, and then they've turned to glue.
Gummy. Yeah. You can. I mean, the celery root, not so much. The potatoes,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, there's no gluten in celery root. There is, you know, there's the starch in the potatoes. So this, you don't like to over whip anything. Like I said, if you wanted, this is going to be more of a rustic texture because it's in the mixer. If you wanted a silkier, creamier texture, you would just do it in a food processor,
Nice.
even a blender, really.
Yeah.
So now we're going to salt this. I also like to salt at the end for the same reason. I feel that the salt kind of brings the starch out of the potato a little bit. and
Interesting.
You get a fluffier finished product.
Oh, that's a great tip.
All right, let me just grab that plate and
Sure.
we'll dish this up. So cooking the fish on the skin side is two things. One, you get that nice crispy skin, and two, you insulate the fish to a degree. So you have the skin and you have that fatty layer. So you're insulating the delicate flesh of the fish from the intense heat of that pan.
It's good for a rookie like me on the grill when I'm cooking something. So.
And then
Oh,
see
look
you
at
get
that
that nice
color.
color on the
Gorgeous.
backside.
Nice crispy skin.
Yeah. So I'm gonna come over here and take some of our puree.
I like how it has a good bit of texture left to it.
Yeah. This is more of a little rustic dish, so we want to keep those textures there.
And this really braised down beautifully. The color
Yeah.
really darkened, and it smells amazing.
It's really nice bright colors for this dish.
Now come our 3 Brussels sprouts.
Moderation, everything in moderation,
Exactly,
even greens in
Brussels
moderation.
sprouts. Well, that's actually a great point to bring up, because when it comes to kidney stones, there's some sort of odd vegetables that people are told to avoid.
Yeah, you want to avoid high oxalate diets,
Mm-hmm.
and unfortunately, you find a lot of oxalate in things like green leafy vegetables. So, when was the last time your doctor told you to not eat green leafy
Yeah,
vegetables?
exactly.
But again, everything in moderation. So, I think a couple Brussels sprouts are perfect today for this dish.
Now some of that sauce. So much flavor in here, and not a lot of fat.
Not a lot of fat and a lot of flavors that really go together very nicely.
Definitely. It's certainly healthy. It's perfect for fall, winter. This looks incredible. I'm not going to waste any time digging in.
Thank
You guys
you.
all have to join me. There's a knife if you want one. Cheers.
Salud.
Don't be shy, guys. There you go. That's what I like. Someone who just gets right in there. Oh,
We're fighting over food.
we are.
We'll be fighting over Brussels sprouts.
That's right.
Oh, wait, there's one for each. Wow. The flavor on that cabbage is incredible, and the sauce just ties everything together.
It's delicious, chef.
Yeah, buttery.
It's really well done.
Thank you very
Really
much.
well done. Super well balanced. Everything's very mild, but still very flavorful.
Thank you.
If that makes any sense
Yes,
whatsoever.
it absolutely does.
I love it. It's so perfect for fall and winter. I keep saying that, but it's so true. You have such these beautiful, cruciferous and root vegetables, and the halibut. Knocked it out of the park. Well done.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for being here today,
Oh,
and
my
same to
pleasure.
you, Doctor.
Thanks.
It's
I
a
look
really
forward
fun show.
to getting this on your menu
Yeah.
for the St. Luke's Heart Healthy menu. Thank you.
Outstanding.
This was a fantastic experience to be on the show today, to actually work with a professional chef in the kitchen, talk about St. Luke's, talk about healthy eating. I really had an amazing experience.
Oh, I love being on the Chef Kitchen. This is my second time on. Every time I come on, it's everyone's really nice to work with. It's a pleasure to be here. Partnering up with St. Luke's is great.